I want to talk to you about a very, very important issue. Abuse. You all know about sexual abuse. Well, I have been the victim of self-abuse. And it's really hard to describe. But, for example, your doctor tells you to lose some weight, and you run right out and buy a big steak. That's self-abuse. But I want to talk about a special type of abuse that's been overlooked. Interpreter abuse. You think we deaf people abuse interpreters? Psh, you bet we do. Let me give you a couple of examples. Let's say I'm a deaf person and there's another person who's an interpreter. And let's say I ask this person if they'll interpret for me tonight. Because this person looks so young, I ask if her parents are deaf. No, she replies. And oh, I think to myself, hearing parents. Can I trust her? You see? Or suppose a deaf person asks an interpreter to interpret a phone call. The deaf person says they want to call Sears because they've got a bill saying they're 5 months behind in payments. The deaf person says, tell them if they don't stop sending me those ridiculous letters, I'm going to find the manager and castrate him. Got it? And you tell him exactly that. When the interpreter hesitates, we think she's incompetent. See? Or when a deaf person signs to an interpreter something like this. Now, I was thinking, well, you know what I mean, and then maybe, well, you know what I mean, that's what I mean. And what's the interpreter supposed to do? She's stuck. See? Or suppose a deaf person signs in such a way that he elongates each sign, stretches it out to the max. What's the interpreter supposed to do? Elongate each word. See? Or, suppose a deaf person tries to be funny by using invented nonsense signs just to see what the interpreter will do. See? Now, of course, I'm not guilty of that sort of thing. Psh, not me. Or suppose a deaf person fingerspells everything. SOMETIMES, WEMUST, TRY, WHAT. All that fingerspelling makes it really tough on the interpreter. See? Or a deaf person who turns around from side to side while signing, so the interpreter can't see the signs. And the interpreter has to keep moving just in order to interpret. See? Or a deaf person will sometimes sign something like this. I really want all of you. You and 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 you, all of you. I mean, you and 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 you. You see? What's the interpreter to do? I'd like to share with you one of my favorite stories. I have this friend, and this is a little bit embarrassing, but it's a true story. This friend came over to my house to visit, and he was supposed to fix my car for me. I wouldn't know how to fix my own car, but he could do it. But his written English skills weren't that great. So when he came into the house, I noticed he was walking funny, like he was hurt or something. And I asked him what was wrong, and he wrote me this note. It said, "I put insult, hurt spinach." I didn't know what the heck he meant. Well, now I teach interpreters from time to time, and I often ask them what they think he meant, how they'd interpret that. "I put insult, hurt spinach." And of course they have no idea. But I found out what he meant when I asked him how it happened. And he signed to me that he was putting up insulation, insult. And he hurt his spinach, spine. So, anytime you don't understand something, just ask how it happened, and that'll solve